I'm sure many of us are familiar with the concept of love languages, and the idea that there are different ways of expressing love towards one another and different ways of receiving love, right, according to our own temperaments, personalities, what have you. And the 5 love languages that are typically described are quality time with someone, words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, and as well as, right, there are many different kinds of love, but we talk about, right, these particular ways of expressing love. Gift giving, that was the 5th one that I couldn't remember. But we look at, right, the way that we give and receive. For instance, I'm someone who likes to show my love for someone by spending time, right? That aspect of quality time. And I know that that's a way in which I receive love as well, right? If someone chooses to spend time with me, takes time out of their day to just, right, spend that time, it doesn't have to be doing anything amazing necessarily, but spending that time, right? That's a love language. I know that someone is expressing their love for me in this way, and someone can know that I'm expressing my love for them in this particular way. God, too, expresses his love language to us in our terms. God's love is something immense, something greater than we can imagine, because we're talking about God's nature that supersedes our own. God's nature, which is supreme love, which is love that goes beyond simple human love. We can't fully comprehend divine love, but we see it expressed in very particular ways in our lives and in the history of salvation. And yet God wants to invite us into that love. That very love that is characteristic of who he is, that love of the Trinity. God wants to invite us to participate in that love. A love that goes beyond just our human ability to love. God invites us to love in a divine way. And in order for us to do that, God shows us ways in which we can participate in that love. Jesus himself in the gospel says, "If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love." If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love. The reason why God gives us commandments, the reason why Jesus teaches us, the reason why the Father shows us these expressions is first to teach us, and then by teaching us to form us to be more and more like his perfect love, like Jesus' own sacred heart. And so as we follow these commandments, we learn to love like God does. And so as we keep the commandments, right, all the commandments that God gives us, right, they are good. They're not there to stifle. They're not there to, right, try to restrict our action in the sense that, right, we need to be confined to a particular box. But rather, the commandments are there to free us to love authentically. And so when we follow God's commandments, we learn to live more and more in his love. The commandment to not steal is not simply there to just say, oh yeah, it's not good to take from other people. But it's there to show us, right, how to truly love our neighbor, respecting their dignity, respecting who they are. When we follow the commandment to love the Lord our God, and when we follow the commandment to keep holy the Sabbath day, we out of justice give to God what is due. It's not simply you have to punch in and out for an hour on Sunday, but rather this is how God is inviting us to show us how we love him. Right? God has given us, 168 hours during the week. He's only asking for one, dedicated to worship, and some other time to spend with him. When we love God, we want to show that love. And we show that love in the way that we keep the commandments. So let's see how we can express that love in the way that God is inviting us to express that, in God's own love language, so that we can give that love to God in the way that he shows us that he wants to receive it.